Much of anything here today.
And why the millennial generation is starting to give up because they can't afford to get a good job or own a house.
8 million Venezuelans voting for this assembly, saying it's actually less than 3.
It is. And people are going to start rioting in the streets.
Was reported to have asked Putin for military support that would help him stay in power.
We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
And they ignore him. And 8 more years goes by till Bernie himself finally admits to his sons, hey, I've been running a Ponzi scheme.
Does its dominance mean it can use the alliance for its own ends?
Since 1981, bond yields, also known as coupon rates, have just gone down and down and down.
The Federal Reserve note will be your biggest financial liability.
RTD Live Talk, Tuesday night, the 27th day of the month of November, and we are live. Looking forward to having a good little bit of back and forth to find out what's happening in your world. And so as always, give it a second before we get into the conversation this evening. But yet, other than that, the goal is to find out what's on your mind. Give me a number, give me a call rather, 1-833-LIVE-RTD. Give me a call, let me know what's on your mind. And let me make sure I'm streaming correctly. Let me see here, make sure this is up and running. Want to find out what's happening. Give it a second for more people to join on the stream this evening, and then we can begin going forward with what's happening in the news today. And so want to get your thoughts primarily on a couple different subjects. One being the whole idea of it looks like because of GM is mentioned about closing plants, it sounds as if the White House mentioned about removing subsidies. And so the very idea of there being subsidies in the manufacturing industry, especially geared towards the whole hybrid models that they're looking to shift to, is quite interesting. So it's going to be interesting to see, how that plays out in the days ahead. But as always, I want to welcome everybody to the chat. And more importantly, if we have any new viewers to the RTD community, feel free to let me know via the chat or call in 1-833-LIVE-RTD and let me know where you're watching from. I always want to make sure I welcome new viewers to the channel. And so let me show that. What is that? Google Amp. So it looks like somebody sent an article. Ohio becomes the first state to accept cryptocurrency. Ohio becomes the first state to allow businesses to pay taxes with Bitcoin. That's very interesting there. Very interesting. So the question will be, how many more states will follow suit and which state will be next? I got an idea. It's probably going to be a West Coast state, but it could be wrong. But that definitely is a major entry point to mass adoption. So we'll see how that goes. So let me see who sent that. Jeff, thanks for sending that, my friend. I saw that, and definitely we can cover that as well. What are your thoughts on that? Is that the beginning of something big, or is that just something that's going to fly under the radar for now? Low blood pressure from Corpus Christi, Texas. Welcome. We got Assumer, you kidding me? Philman, Netherlands. Welcome, my friend. Got the Netherlands in the house tonight. Welcome to the RTD community, buddy. As always, what's happening over there in your area? How's the economy? How's the social scene there? Not too familiar. Don't really cover the Netherlands that often, so always want to find out what's happening. So feel free to let us know. Got Patrick. How you doing, Pat? We got Kenneth. Hi there. So, what's on your mind tonight? Let's talk. Let's come with some conversation tonight, or some topics rather, that is of interest to you guys. And more importantly, what have I missed in the news today? And before I get too far into today's chat, I actually want to just touch base and acknowledge a few comments that's left on the RTD comment section that I typically don't have a chance to actually go through often, and basically just give a little shout out to those that took the time to leave a comment. And so here we go. We have Laura said, Wall Street at it again, can't have anything anymore. Says Wall Street scammers always slithering around making sure they defraud the working class. How come fraudulent CEOs of financial institutions never are prosecuted? So that's in reference to a news ad that I did a couple months ago. So Laura, thanks for chiming on that topic there. Jeff, I see a comment left there. It says the U.S. is only broke if we continue the dollar Ponzi scam, return to the gold standard, and start mining in Alaska and Colorado. Interesting. So that will be interesting to see, because I believe a lot of the federal protected lands, primarily around that the Grand Canyon area, as well as Alaska, I think those are all the lands that are labeled as Federal Reserve, federal land or whatnot that's reserved for nature. I believe that all those lands became basically parks that are not touched, or are not allowed to be touched right now, because of the gold reserves or not that's in there. So, or as well as just natural resources in general. So I believe there is a lot of wealth in that area in the ground that has not been touched yet. It says, GH says, Bitcoin is the solution. Banksters can't work with dirty tricks no more. That's in reference to the United States is broke comment there, video. It says, please let us give Israel billions. What else we got here? It says, caravan there to protect border from the starving Americans. Scroll down some more. It says, why do you men folks run the world like this? It's very trifling, stupidity, impoverished, etc. Okay, men folks. Not sure what that's about. It says, awesome video. It says, got pickpocketed in Rome while the Pope was giving prayer. Unbelievable. Namaste. Says, I've been researching the crops being destroyed every single day worldwide, but even just here in the U.S. from fires, wind, hail, floods, mold, weird bugs, I definitely feel we will see higher prices in reference to food, everything by next summer. For instance, the pecan trees in New Mexico and the fruit trees in Georgia and the area would take 10 years to regrow. So that's someone that's concerned about nature and the sustainability of the current food supply. So thank you guys for leaving comments in reference to some of those videos. Appreciate that. And so it looks like we have a super chat from Mr. Craig Gordon. I appreciate that offering there, Greg. It says, getting my weight up. There you go. I appreciate that. So definitely get your weight up. And, you know, as some people mentioned during the live chat a couple days ago, get your digits up too, referring to the idea that for those that are interested in the cryptocurrency sector, how, you know, for the most part, the primary coins are down right now. So if you have interest, definitely take advantage of prices while they are at somewhat relatively low prices given everything that's happening around us. So definitely get some good stuff there. It says, what else we got here? It says, make America great again. Welcome to the new BS economy. Good one, Will. It says, hello all. Ty Hunsu. How you doing, my friend? Thanks for chiming in. Where are you located at? It says, hey, just wanted to thank you for having the Silver Godfather David Morgan. Definitely, David Morgan. It's a pleasure to have him on the show again. I had him join me, I think, 2 years ago. And as always, you know, he tends to cover a variety of subject matters relating to silver, of course, but he's a guy that's well versed in this matter because he's been living the manipulation in the markets for 20, 30 years now. So if he's a person who's been able to withstand the ups and downs of prices, I thought it would be very good and encouraging to have him on to give you guys a little bit of a thumbs up and a little pat on the back saying, hey, stick in there and don't give up on your first love. It says, question, with GM laying off the closing plants, GM laying off and closing plants, should the government cut subsidies? Philman, very good question there. I actually mentioned that, at the very, very beginning when I hit the live stream button, because when I actually heard that and watched a little commentary on that, it got me to wondering as to why exactly is the government subsidizing the automotive industry anyway. But I'm reminded of the fact that back in the Great Recession, how the manufacturing industry was basically bailed out by the government. So the manufacturing companies pretty much gave up their rights to be able to choose when they asked the government for help to stay afloat back 10 years ago. So when they actually stepped into the political realm and said, hey, we need help, they gave up all their rights to really even expect the government to not come at them with this idea of removing subsidies. And I heard a little commentary as well mentioning that, the subsidies primarily are towards the energy efficient vehicles, which as of right now, I hear the market is about 3 to 4% in this country as far as people who actually have the hybrid, ecosystem friendly type vehicles. So it's not much of a subsidy anyway, because a lot of people don't have those type of cars. So The gentleman who I was referring to was on Fox News mentioning that, you know, it's not much of a loss there because there's not much being put into that right now. But the point that they were trying to make is if they keep plants in Mexico and plants in China open, but close 5 plants here in America, something's wrong as far as their priorities and loyalty to keeping workers here employed. And so, of course, the first thing that came to mind is, oh, of course, it's a lot cheaper to employ people in Mexico as well as in China than it is here. So at the end of the day, it's a public company that's looking out for their longevity and saving money. So hence the idea of prices being too high as far as running and operating and making a profit. So they're going to close down plants. So we will see what type of backlash there will be, because definitely, you know, the idea of Trump, this whole narrative of him having such a great economy, GM stands to alter that a little bit. So I don't think he's going to let that fly. So we'll see what happens in the days ahead. But laying off 14,000 people will definitely add to the all-time lows of unemployment, which we're currently under now, if you believe that. So just my little 2 cents on that. It says, hi, Mike. It says, oh, I was going to ask about Brexit also. See that just hit. Brexit, man, that's one thing I have not really even looked into much, even though I know it's a very important subject. But with so much else going on, haven't really covered it much. But let me pull up a couple articles here, because I actually watched a little bit of Theresa May's, I think about 2 weeks ago, her plea to Parliament to accept whatever deal she was coming up with. And a lot of people weren't for it. And so apparently a lot of her party has already resigned and quit. So she doesn't seem to have much support for whatever it is she's proposed. So it sounds like there's no type of agreement that will be stable enough for it actually to go through. And so what I anticipate happening is chaos ensuing over there. So, but we'll see. I got a couple articles in front of me now. I'll click on a few of them and see what some of the primary subject matter. It says Brexit. It says Trump says May's Brexit plan could hurt UK-US trade deal. So that right there lets us know. Apparently the president wants to make sure he maintains that trade deal that they have, whatever is included in there. And so it says the U.S. president reporters the withdrawal agreement sounds like a great deal for the EU, and the UK might not be able to trade with the U.S. Number 10 insists it is very clear the UK will be able to sign trade deals with countries around the world. So yeah, I'm not sure how that would all play out. But as you can see, the big subject matter is trade, free trade, or trade with restrictions on it. This whole trade situation is going to be very problematic because it cuts into revenue all around the world, and it's going to mess with tax revenue for governments. It says Theresa May Brexit deal is doomed, Sir Michael Fallon, whoever that gentleman is. So just based upon this, it doesn't look like it's moving smoothly. So I would anticipate there being some type of hiccup along the way. What else we got here going on in the chat? It says gold is for kings, silver for the ordinary people. Yeah, gold is the money of kings or monarchs, and silver is the people's money. It's always been. And either way, in comparison to holding paper that's depreciating rapidly, every time a printing press runs in Washington, D.C., the currency you're holding loses purchasing power. Whether the paper is sitting on crates inside of a warehouse, or whether they're moved throughout the country to all 12 Federal Reserve banks as deposits to be lent out to commercial banks in those regions, every time a printing press runs, you lose out. Or we lose out, rather. It says, I stick to silver unless you plan to flee. I will stick to silver unless you plan to flee. Yeah, and that's the thing. It depends on what your long-term plan is. If you are a person who's going to take root where you're currently at now, then you can probably get your weight up massively and hold all types of ounces or tonnage in silver. But if you want to be a little agile and be able to make some moves or with some heavy pockets, possibly, then gold would be the ideal way, especially if you're trying to move across state borders or whatnot. But to move outside the country, you won't get far with anything in your possession. But on a side note, now that we're talking about making moves, I've noticed that there is a more of a movement now to get back to, or to adopt what Eastern mindset has towards gold, and it's the being able to actually wear physical 24 karat gold, which over here in the West, we don't have pure 24 karat because it's a soft metal. So, but we talk about that more. Hello, caller. What's your name and where you calling from?
Craig out of Beaumont. Right now I'm in Nebraska.
Craig out of Beaumont, but right now you're in Nebraska. Thanks for calling, my friend. What's on your mind tonight?
I was trying to. It's been a while because I've been busy and doing a little shuffling around.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I just wanted to bring the attention. I couldn't do it the last time. Just didn't have time.
Yeah.
But I noticed how the social media has, particularly YouTube, has started changing.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm saying is, I think a new media platform is being established before our eyes, and it's just real subtle. And the one thing that's brought me attention to it is then when the networks, I think like a month and a half ago, they had announced they were going to have they had a layoff in the network division.
Mm-hmm.
You know, of course, like actual mainstream media.
Yeah.
And I'm going like, man, that is weird. And then, just going, I pondered over it, and I said, duh, people are doing what I'm doing. They're going to social media platforms like yourself,
mm-hmm.
and they're doing stuff like social media support.
Yeah.
Because they're cutting out some of the commercials, and then you got conflicts of interest because of royalty rights.
Yeah.
So what they've done is they've moved to a platform to where people can do the GoFundMe thing or Super Chat in this case.
Yeah.
And it's really proven to be somewhat successful. I'm thinking that guys like yourselves are pioneering a new way of how media is going to operate.
Yeah, and so that's it. It's a pro. It's a benefit, and then it's a negative to that, because definitely more of mainstream individuals are becoming aware of alternatives media such as YouTube or whatnot. The problem is that the corporate social media platforms like YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all those Facebooks, they're all, publicly traded companies for the most part. So they have they're changing their business model. They're getting away from free speech and more so tailoring it towards what they want people to know. And so that's a problem, because if you look at YouTube especially, most of the channels that do extremely well and don't get any interruptions or have any problems are the entertainment channels, like travel blogs and makeup blogs and all types of blogs that have nothing to do with real world scenarios. But then people who talk about the government, politics, the currency, those people there, they don't get the type of promotion and ad revenue and things like that. So I think the whole decentralized and the blockchain based platforms is coming up now will probably be the next wave of social media platforms that can be more community based and might have a chance at one day derailing some of these corporate social media platforms. But as of now, corporate mainstream media, of course, is dying just because everyone knows that they are the true fake news. So I think you have a point there.
And then the other thing I noticed too is, like, I've seen a couple of stations that did get put in YouTube penalty box, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm. But
they'll say, hey, I'm not around, but y'all could catch me on my Patreon.
Yeah.
And that's something else. That right there could actually be sparking a little bit of competition for them in the future.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Sitting back and just watch this whole thing play out and just see what happens.
Yeah, it is interesting because we are entering a new paradigm on many fronts. One, monetarily, with the shift away from the old dying fiat system, and then we're witnessing the birth of the crypto blockchain revolution that's taking place, which some people call Internet 2.0, 3.0, whatever they're labeling it. And then we have, from a social standpoint, more people are waking up to what's happening and coming to the light of the idea that they're responsible for their own lives, not some government body. So we'll see how it goes. But of course, the more people wake up, the more of a threat that is to the established governmental structure that has been designed to be the overseer and lord of our lives. So we'll see what type of pushback we get down the line. So, but it is promising on some fronts.
All right. Well, that was on my mind. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for calling in. Have a good evening.
All right, you too.
All right.
Bye.
Definitely good call there. Appreciate you calling in and sharing what's on your mind. Social media is changing drastically. And I think more people, especially if you actually look at the mainstream news now, I'm noticing more corporate media sources actually laying laying the hammer down on Facebook right now. I heard articles about investors are looking for Zuckerberg to resign and step down, and so I guess the whole data breaching situation has happened over the last couple of months of people's information being sold to second, third, fourth parties. Is not really going well, and because of that, people are becoming aware of the fact that their entire gadget, their entire internet history is being used to market to them and to sell them goods and services. So people are basically waking up to the idea that you don't really own your own information online, and people want their information either monetized for themselves or held in a private type of way. So, but we'll see. It's still early. It is still early. As always, people, give me a call if you have something on your mind, 1-833-LIVE-RTD, or let me know in the chat, and we'll try to get to it. It says, yeah, the gold bugs cry about fiat backed by nothing. Crypto is worse. In Venezuela, you can wipe your blank with Bolivar. Can you do that with Litecoin? Very good point there, low blood pressure. I actually read a really good article today that, of course, is a crypto-based article. But from top to bottom, it laid a pretty interesting case as to the intrinsic nature or the value proposition that comes from the blockchain, and it being time and energy. And so because of time and energy is needed to bring forth, to mint, and to basically to mint different types of cryptos, it comes at a cost, which is the equivalent of time and energy put into you actually going to get a shovel and getting into a mountain trying to get gold. The idea of mining does have there are some valid arguments on the crypto side, because it takes time and it takes resources, i.e. energy. And as you can see, the whole idea of proof of work is being argued right now because it costs so much. Hence the idea that it costs more right now to mint a Bitcoin than it's actually of value to the miners to do so. So, but you got people can argue on both ways. So it says, haha, greetings. Max, how you doing, my friend? Welcome to the stream. Where you watching us from? It says, don't get me wrong, I would love to have a ride to the top, but I missed out. It says, pick up 15 ounces of silver yesterday and 49 Litecoin. Whoa, okay, my man. Got your weight up and you got your digits up. It says new ID requirements. Federal required ID documents such as U.S. passport, passport card, or certified copy of birth certificate. Also proof of Social Security on W-2 or pay stub. What is that about? By October 2020. Travel will be limited. Flying thought. Man. So with that whole idea of restricted travel due to your personal information need to be logged in everything you do, I don't doubt it, because as more people look to flee to this country here for a better life, more people that's waking up to the realization that life isn't not really all that great here are looking to get out. And the people that's looking to get out are the taxpayers. So I can see there being restrictions on revoking your citizenship or being able to leave the country down the line. So, hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
I'm Russell from Missouri.
Russell from Missouri. How you doing this evening, my friend? What's on your mind?
I'm doing great, Mike. It's good to talk to you again.
Same here, buddy.
I had a question.
Okay.
It's several layers deep.
Okay.
And you're talking a little bit about it, about our information not being our own, Bitcoin or Google owns it, Facebook owns it, all these places own it.
Right.
And without realizing it, I'd say 99% of us have gone on there, played games, share our pictures, all those things that they're monetizing on us.
Yeah.
How and obviously I'm a Bitcoiner, so and I personally, being a truck driver, I don't have a lot of time to do the research that I really need to, so I don't know how to go and buy Bitcoin without being, I had to do it through Gemini, which you have to,
KYC, AML, yeah.
Yeah, KYC, all that stuff, and I'm not against, paid my taxes or anything like that. That's not the reason why I do it. I would not want to give that information out, but it has to do with privacy.
Yeah.
How do we get that back once we've gone down that rabbit hole and made the mistakes of putting out our information, letting the government know everything about us, and how do we retract from that and get that back, get that out of the hands of those that we don't want to have it, so that we can give it to who we deem needs to know, and not allow all the other entities have that information on us.
Right. Ooh, good point there. So it sounds like at the end of the day, the question was, how do you get back your privacy? How do you get back to having some sort of privacy in this world where everything is known, basically? And,
exactly.
And my response, off the top of my head, the very first thing that comes to my mind is that it's too late. We're already in the system, especially if you have signed up for Gemini already. Your information in reference to your financial transactions with that company is already put in some computer somewhere, and they are responsible for reporting your activity. And so if they report on you, it's good to say that I'm not 100% sure on this, but I believe I was told or heard somewhere that there is a data center, I think it's either the NSA or some big facility that has every citizen's internet activity on it in some type of file of some kind, of which I can't prove that, I can't go anywhere online and find that, but the fact that it's on the internet and everything on the internet is basically right in front of us and it's searchable, lets me know that that is probably possible, that there's a file on everybody who's had activity on the internet, your credit card information. Anytime you put your credit card in there, your bank statement, your social media, all that stuff is compiled probably to one folder for you. And so where's that? Who's holding it? Who's looking at it? I don't know, which would lead me to believe that it's too late to actually get all that back, given that it's out there already. So I would say it's not something that I personally even worry about, just because, and it's not the idea that I don't have anything to hide. It's just that I don't believe under this current model that you're going to have privacy in the way that you think you will. So I think about just moving around it, moving on with it, and just doing the best I can with what I have, being conscious of what I do from that point on. And eventually, I think with this whole blockchain movement that's taking place now, where there's companies developing ways of actually retaining your data and being able to monetize and make moves with it by yourself, I think eventually that might catch on. But if you already plugged into the system, you plugged in already.
Right. Well, it's okay. Let's say I do find a way of purchasing cryptocurrencies and maybe getting silver, not through a the way I'm getting it now, things like that. And I do find a way. So would I just have to store those in different areas? Like with Bitcoin, you want to keep it in your own wallet. Well, okay, the coins that I purchased through a exchange where I've already been, AML and KYC'd. So if I find a source to purchase it a different way, it would be better to put that and start using that source more consistently and putting that in like a different storage area, so that's actually unknown currency, whatever, so that I can report it to who I want to when I decide I need to.
Right. Would
that be the way to do it that you're talking about? Just find different ways around it and then act that way going forward.
Right. And so in my opinion, of course, it's not financial advice or anything of that nature, but in my opinion,
of course,
I believe, and I've always mentioned it before, it's always good to actually have some dealer, coin shop or something near you that you've probably established a relationship with over years or whatever, that you can actually go down to them and just lay down a $20 bill and walk out with a silver eagle if you want it, and it'd be no problems. Because a lot of people, I'm not even sure the rules of the bullion dealers or coin dealers having to report or whatever, any type of transactions. But I know if you use your credit card, of course, that shows up on your financial transaction statement. But if you use cash, then that's just you just making normal commerce amongst a store down the street from you. So that will be a way of being able to do things and not necessarily have to look over your shoulders about who's keeping track of what you're doing and all that stuff. So that could be a method. Yes, I believe.
Right. Okay. Very cool.
So yeah, so definitely, I always tell people, of course, you look for sales online, of course, but yet also, probably want to have somewhere locally that you trust and will be able to sell to if you needed to liquidate some of that for whatever reasons. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So just my 2 cents, man. Hope that was helpful for you.
Yeah, very, very good. And I like what you're doing out there. Keep it up. Keep up the good work, and everybody, get your weight up.
Definitely, my friend. Appreciate that. Thanks for calling in.
Yep.
Good question as always. And of course, people, this is not financial advice. This is just one man's opinion. So definitely do your own homework and research and make sure you feel comfortable doing what's best for you. And I want to acknowledge Bible Book Club for that donation there. I appreciate the super chat, my friend. Says, just found your channel. Keep up the good work. I will do so, God willing. So I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you. And as always, for those that might be new to the channel and not aware of what the slogan is that's been thrown around a couple times, it's the whole idea of get your weight up. And so November is considered Get Your Weight Up month because of an agreement with SD Bullion to put 1 gram of gold into the hands of every caller and viewer. So definitely take advantage of that. Hello, caller. What's your name and where you calling from?
This is Pat from Alabama. How you doing?
Pat from Alabama. How you doing, my friend? Doing great. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, I want to point out 2 things here.
Okay.
Last time I called, I believe I talked about one belt, one road.
Okay.
2 petri dishes and a bridge.
Yeah.
They have African swine flu in China now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's I don't know if it's moving to the human population or they just have it in their swine and they can't eat them because of it. But that's a big to-do.
Yeah, definitely.
The other thing got going on that I wanted to point out was I told you that them Hondurans were not used to 70-degree weather. Have you noticed how many of them have coats?
No, I have not looked at any video as of late. And so I will definitely, I can pull up some video now and find out. But from the little video I've seen from mainstream corporate media, they show people, receiving tear gas canisters thrown at them, and so they're painted as being the victims for them trying to illegally cross the border. So they're doing something illegal, but yet, I guess
I agree with you. Did they expect cake and pie?
Yeah, for real. Or the red carpet on the bridge saying "come this way" and checks being handed out or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And we've all been watching videos, and I had one that I think he was from El Salvador. He spoke English.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked him why he was traveling up, and he said, because they treat you so much better in America. I don't think that's going to be true this time.
Yeah, that's so yeah, I would imagine there's more to that than just that, because exactly where did he hear that from, and what's his end destination? Like, a lot of people trying to get into the country, but apart from them not being welcomed along the border, do they plan on moving north, west, or what? So, and the question would be, Pat, I want to ask you this question: do you think the thousands of people that's trying to get into this country are actually going to get in? And if they do get into this country, what do you think, and how do you think people will respond and react?
Well, I don't think they'll get into this country.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we'll respond very well. As you know, you got a different mindset in Central America and South America.
Yeah, I do agree.
And they don't understand that, the government takes care of you, which they don't for South America or Central America, but we treat them so much better up here.
Yeah, and I think the biggest adjustment is going to be on their expectations on the quality of living in comparison to what they were receiving. Like, they're on nickels and dimes and pennies type of lifestyle. They're barely having enough, whereas in here, we are spoiled and we have, in most cases, more than enough, and that them trying to adapt to that, because if they don't reach what the status that we have as Americans that are, have 2 cars, a nice house, what all the stuff that is the dream for most people, they're going to start getting a little bit jealous, and crime might pick up because they're not able to obtain those things fast enough. And so we're going to have issues just like with the migrants in the European area, where there's been a lot of violence, and you have a lot of, in that region there, a lot of Muslim men coming into those Scandinavian countries doing bad things to the women up there. So I think the rule of law will be in jeopardy, clearly, if these people come up here anticipating on doing whatever they want to do. And if they're not punished for it, then what will be what will stop them from doing what they want to do like they did in their own country, perhaps? So, yeah, we're going to find out.
I might be buying a little bit more brass than I buy silver.
Yeah. So it's like people, like I think last week mentioned about getting your lead up. So some people said hashtag get your lead up. So yeah, that would be and that right there, that could be a touchy situation, because you have the loss of life from one foreigner, right or wrong, defending your property or not. The mainstream media can paint it like, oh, this guy, he's a racist, he's this, he's that, and then it makes someone defending their own property that look like the bad guy, depending on how the story spun. So yeah, we got to be careful.
Alabama.
Not Alabama.
Not in Alabama. If you're defending your property, you get a community medal.
Yeah, a community medal. Oh man, that's a good one, man.
Well, listen.
Yeah.
If the guy didn't come to rob you, he'd have went and robbed your neighbor. So you didn't pay the community
Did a
a
community?
favor.
Yeah. You stopped it before it got that far. So. Oh man, but that's something else, man, and that's not even a joking matter. But I get your point, Pat.
Okay, well now. Remember what I said about them Petri dishes?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to take a look at that.
Check it out.
All right, I will do so, my friend.
All
Thanks.
right.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Good as always, Pat. Appreciate that, man. Also, missed a couple calls. In the meantime, feel free to call back, 1-833-LIVE-RTD. Let me know what's in your mind. It says, I saw something about Tijuana. Trump is deporting them. Yeah. And so the bad part is that the corporate mainstream media is going to spin it as if the current administration has no care for the needy, and so you got a lot of liberals like we need to help them out. We're in a position where we can help them out, but there's a process to helping people out, and if they're bombarding the borders, that's illegal entrance. That's a crime. How do you help criminals? You got to send them back, I believe. But that's another story. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike. It's Homer Roberts from North Carolina.
Homer from North Carolina.
Talk to you. Yes, sir.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fine. Hope you're doing well.
Yes, I am. What's on your mind tonight?
Yeah, I brought up the new government ID requirements. I was trying to renew my license today, and I had an option to go ahead and do the new ID requirement where you need to give your birth certificate, all the other forms.
And so, in doing so, you receive just a renewed license, or a new special kind of license, or what?
The new license, yes, sir.
The new
Absolutely.
license.
Because if you do not get this new license, this new ID, you would not be able to travel or enter federal or government buildings.
Enter
so
government
my thought
buildings.
is, yes, you'd be prohibited. So what if you're trying to collect Social Security or trying to get a gun permit, or also WIC or other government programs that you might need.
Interesting. So
that's my thought.
Okay, so I'm just gonna type that in and see what comes up, because I'm trying to. So did you go through the process of receiving that new ID, and what is it, if you did? What does it look like? Does it look like your old driver's license, or is it completely different? Or give us some insight on that.
No, it's you got like a little star. Mine's a badge, but other states it might be a star. It's just new federal ID.
Federal ID. So, okay,
yeah.
I'm trying to see.
Go
ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts. I'm going to hang up so I can listen to you online, buddy.
Okay.
I don't want to keep the phone tied up.
No problem. Appreciate that.
Mike.
Thanks for sharing that, my friend. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir. Thank
you.
All right.
Yep. Wow. So great call. Thanks for sharing that information. And apart from you know, I've heard about it, read articles on it. Here's one in front of us now. It says new ID rules at the airport are pushed back to 2020. And so it says that all 50 states are now complying with Real ID. It says the Real ID Act was passed in Congress, by Congress 2005 in the wake of 9/11. And so I'm not assuming that this is all related to that ID you're referring to. You said it looks like a badge. It has a star on it. And so I'm going to type in new federal ID and see if there's any pictures. Because other than that, I am not sure what that's all about. New federal ID. So here's some IDs that popped up, and here's one with a star on it. And so this is Ohio. Let me see if South Carolina. So let me know in the chat if these IDs with this star on it look similar or what. Because apart from, you know, I'm not sure what this star is. It says deadline looms. Okay, so here's an article here. It says deadline looms for new ID, hence this star. So let me click on this and see where it takes us. It says deadline looms for new ID. So here's a little article here. It says if you fly often or visit federal buildings or military bases like Fort Drum, there's a deadline that you need to know about. The deadline is a few years off, but it's worth knowing. Starting October 1st, 2020, you will no longer be able to fly within the United States with a regular driver's license. You will need a new kind of license called Real ID or compliant identification like a passport or enhanced license. Travel agents like Barbara AJ has said that you don't have to run out and get a compliant ID if you travel. You should be prepared before the change in 2020. So apart from, you know, without diving any deeper in this star here is basically a new way for them to probably, in my opinion now, by you having to take your birth certificate and things of that nature, which I'm not too familiar with taking my birth certificate to get my driver's license renewed before. So I would imagine that Secretary of State is probably responsible for putting you into a new database, utilizing your private information like, you know, social security number, date of birth, all that stuff like that in a separate database for whatever reason. It could be this is just me off the top of my head, speculating, guessing, whatever. This new database, because this whole protocol here is within the next 2 years, it has to be done. And it looks like in all 50 states. So eventually everybody will have to go this route. Why now? You know, why is this 2-year time frame so important? So you think about what's happening in the next 2 years. Supposedly, we're expecting a recession. We're expecting, as Lynette Zhang mentioned all the time, the LIBOR rates basically being renewed or reneged upon to where everyone will be, all loans will be called in or defaulted on or something of that nature. And so with the next 2-year period, there's a lot of plans here, probably before the next presidential race as well. So I wouldn't doubt if this new ID push is a part of some separate identification protocol to separate citizens and to get a better head count as to who is authorized to travel and probably your travel history and things of that nature. So something definitely to look into further for those that are interested. But I notice here if it says if you have a passport, you won't necessarily need this. So people who have a passport might be good till their passport expires, whatever that time frame is. Then you might have to get a passport with a star on it too. So not 100%, but you know, this is just something that's out here. So I want to comment on a little bit and go from there. But if you guys have any thoughts out there, feel free to, you know, chime in the chat or call in about this matter here. This is definitely something that you know, I didn't hear about on the mainstream corporate news. So it says, okay, the Star of David. Okay, so we getting spiritual in that matter there. We going back. We going a little deeper on that one. It says not valid in people's handouts of Cali. Puerto Rico needs a hurricane, Trump. I just did the ID thing and they are going to mail it to me. It says it's called an enhanced ID. And what else we got here? I waited 3 hours to go home and cost $20 for the ID. Yeah, the whole idea of renewing your driver's license and having to pay for your tags on your car, and man, that sucks. I mean, if it was suitable, you know, I wouldn't mind having a horse and buggy. I'm sure you might have to get a plate for your buggy, and a plate for your horses. What happened to free travel across borders without hindrance, you know, type of thing. But anyway, it is what it is. Question says, how long do you think before the government stops paying for social programs, food stamps, Section 8 welfare, etc.? Philman, man. Whew, that's a very interesting question there, because as I have mentioned in the past, if you cut off the lifeline to people's, what is it? I think it's either half of the population. Half of the population falls into one of those categories as being subsidized by the government. So if you cut off those EBT cards, you saw what happened a couple years ago when there was a glitch with the EBT system in Walmart's system, and they went completely chaotic up in Walmart. It was a riot up in Kmart, in Walmart rather. You know, they had pictures of on like whatever, the first of the month, whatever day it is that the cars are filled up. They had lines of people, and I think this is in Tennessee or somewhere in the South or Midwest. They had people on that day, usually on the day that the EBT cars get filled up, however that works. They got massive lines in Walmart and things like that. And it so happened that a lot of people got to the front and swiped those cars, and their boy said, and then go off. They had people throwing stuff, pushing stuff. They had to call police, security, because think about it. A third of the population, or half, depending on how many actually receive aid, have no backup plan or have no plan B, because their whole life have been geared towards receiving something for life. So the minute that something is interrupted or stopped, they're out of luck. They're like completely on their bare knuckles, no other options. They are probably the majority of the population that falls into that category of not having, I heard it's $500 now or $1,000 for emergency or something like that. So it won't be pretty if that does happen. And so I don't think the government would do that intentionally. I think, they'll definitely, if they cut off any of those social programs, they're going to implement the UBA. And so everybody know what the UBA is around here, the Universal Basic Allowance. And so they're going to definitely make up with it in some form or fashion. They may say we'll cut off food stamps, welfare, housing. We'll get it all in one lump check called UBA. Of course, it won't be called UBA because that sounds too generous. But anyway, so that's my thoughts on that. So what else we got going on here? It says wall is to keep Americans escaping. Mark my words. Johnny Deep. That is a very good point, and I mentioned that before in the past too. I believe that the whole idea right now of building a wall is to really basically keep in the middle class working community, those that are the backbone of this country, those that keep this thing running. Because as people become more hard pressed, there's already a movement of people consider themselves to be expats that are looking to either retire abroad because it's cheaper, or just saying, hey, it's too expensive here, so let me try somewhere else. And then they're going below the border. So I don't doubt that the wall is designed to limit free travel, definitely. And it's not necessarily to keep out people below the border from coming in, because there's never been problems before, apart from the last decade, of there being an idea that you can come across here to this country for, because of the whole movement of, we're all the same, we're all this, we're all that. But we're all different cultures and different levels of living where that doesn't mesh well. So, just my thoughts. So, what's up, everyone? Just tuned in. Hit the thumbs up button. It's me, Boss Lady. How you doing? Thanks for tuning in. Definitely, if you guys are on board, feel free to give us a thumbs up. Hopefully, more people can join us. More people welcome into the community. And so, what's going on? Feel free to let me know. Give me a call. 1-833-LIVE-RTD. Would love to hear your voice or some thoughts in the chat. It said, how's the barbecue in Detroit? Low blood pressure. The barbecue, no, I don't think it's it's not nothing special, put it like that. Like it's been a while, but I remember having barbecue in the Midwest, in the central part of this country, that was pretty good. I remember years ago, traveling through Tennessee, there was a place, a small little shack off the freeway. And it, just off visual appearance, it's like, man, it's not a typical spot that you would stop, but we ended up stopping years ago, and they had some of the best barbecue. It was in one of them big drum barrels, the big, oil barrels with charcoal. It was throwing down in Tennessee. So I imagine, you know, Detroit barbecue is nothing compared to what's happening down south. But that's to be debated. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike. This is Jeff. How you doing?
I'm good, Jeff. How you doing? What's on your mind tonight?
I just had a quick question. I know you live in Detroit, so could you give us more information about what's going on with the GM shut down plants and laying off workers?
Yeah.
And also, I just wanted to get your thoughts. I was reading an article, and they were talking about how some of these retailers were dependent on Black Friday sales. And from what I've read online, the sales haven't been going according to plan. So I kind of look like we're going to have some more stores shutting down, or maybe JCPenney's or Macy's or Targets and stuff like that didn't meet their sales quota that they needed for Black Friday. So I just wanted to ask you about that and see what your thoughts were on that. That's all.
Okay, and so subject one, or the first one, the whole GM side of things. Apart from like a couple of weeks ago, commenting on the idea that GM put forth a proposal on offering a buyout, 18,000 people they put under that window there. Apparently things have changed over the last couple of weeks because either there wasn't enough response from those that were under that window of being forced to accept the bailout. Well, not a bailout, but a whatever, you know what I'm talking about. So it looks like they sped things up because they're behind. I read something about they were behind schedule in adjusting their books to be able to start off 2019 in the good fashion financially. So they sped things up by saying, hey, you know, most people don't want to accept the buyout. We're going to just fire them. So apart from yesterday being in the store, looking up on the screen, it said breaking news, emergency type stuff. Just a Detroit channel. It said emergency, GM to lay off 14,700 people and close 5 factories. And that was like mainstream news yesterday. So I would imagine that, but the sad part is when they made that announcement, GM stock went up like 6% or something like that. So investors was like, okay, they're going to be more profitable now that they're shaving off $3.something billion. And so you had a flood of money coming in. So it looks like there's, you know, thousands of people losing their jobs potentially, but yet those that are invested and those that are probably not 1%, 5% class of investors are making a good little profit. So just based upon that alone, it's all about profitability and returning to shareholders in an investment. So at that point, anything's possible. So I'm not surprised at all. I think GM is going to be the first. I think Ford, whose stock, to my knowledge, is not really all that favorable right now as well. They're going to be forced to do some things as well, and then Chrysler eventually. So it's all coming to a halt. We're going to see exactly the how fragile this economy is. So I believe that 2019, we should anticipate a lot more stories like this. I'm sure. And then on the other front of the second question was Black Friday sales. I got an article here. I haven't really even heard much about it. But according to this article here, it says that Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales hit another high, but it's not time to celebrate just yet. And so based upon this, it says on Cyber Monday, an occasion the industry invented to encourage online shopping, American consumers spent $7.9 billion, making it the biggest online shopping day in U.S. history. So it looks like online retailers did pretty good. And so if it goes down a little bit, it says big spending based upon the last couple of years. And it looks like Alibaba's single day sales from 2012 to this year. So it looks like Alibaba touched $30 billion this year. And it says Black Friday here in the U.S. touched 13.9 total. And then we have Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And then we have Cyber Monday and just Black Friday by itself. And so according to the numbers, it looked like some people made profit here, more than $2 billion on Monday. And so I'm not sure about the retailers, the brick and mortar stores. And so that will be my concern. And so I would imagine that the brick and mortar stores probably lost out big time, because if these are all online sales for the most part. If there was billions upon billions made online, I would imagine that there wasn't many deals actually down at brick and mortar stores apart from your discount places like Walmart and things of that nature. So I would imagine there's going to be a lot of pressure on stores such as JCPenney, Kohl's, and all the old stores that all seem similar anyway. They all got clothes. They got a variety of things inside of it, but nothing really of interest to most people, especially if you can get it online. So without even knowing the retail brick and mortar store sales, just the numbers based upon online lets me know that we can anticipate some restructuring in 2019. That's what I mean, Jeff, I believe. And so we know that at the beginning of this year, 2018, I think it was, I talked about this months and months ago about 2018, there were, retail stores closing. So there were thousands of people lost their jobs already in retail stores. So, anticipate some things of that nature happening again, unfortunately, in the beginning of 2019, just like it was in the beginning of this year, I believe. So it says here, what else we got here? It says zero hedge. Let me show that one. I'll click on that one. Jeff, appreciate you for posting that. Let me see what pops up. All right, so here's an article here that looks pretty interesting. It says 9 million fewer Americans shopped during Black Friday weekend. And so however that study was compiled, says U.S. consumers would rack up more than $700 billion in purchases by Christmas. That makes this year's holiday shopping season the strongest since boom years of the mid-2000s. And so, what's interesting about these numbers here, and I bet there's probably a survey somewhere along the lines of how many people actually use their credit cards this year to help out these all-time high in Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales. And so I imagine with the increase of sales this way, credit card usage probably went up as well. So I'm sure there's a study out there. We're going to find something pretty soon. But so what that means is people didn't actually have the funds directly, but they decided to charge it instead. So that's interesting. That is very interesting. So we'll see. Time will tell. Time always does. Time always does. It says, what else we got? It says, Elon is no longer an entrepreneur. He is a financier. I wouldn't want to buy a condo in Sparks, Nevada. Yeah, Sparks, Nevada. I imagine it's probably very expensive there. Probably like Silicon Valley. I stayed home. They call it Black Eye Friday. Is that by far the most intellectual chat I've ever had on YouTube. Thanks, everyone. Bible Book Club, I appreciate that, my friend. Welcome. Make sure you tune in again tomorrow. We should be back here. Feel free to call in if you got something you want to talk about. It says 67,000 acres in a desert in Nevada for a crypto city to be built. That's very interesting there. I've heard about that a lot these days, and it's due with that blockchain LLC, which is, was it $400 million ordeal that's going on. So the question is, what are they planning on doing out there that they can't do anywhere else, apart from making everything acceptable through crypto? So we will see. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is Patrick James, calling from Kansas City, best barbecue in town.
Hey there, Kansas City, best barbecue in town. How you doing, my friend? What's on your mind tonight?
I was calling to talk about that Black Friday.
Okay, go ahead. What's on your mind?
I'm talking about the credit card usage. Are people going to live in debt?
Are people going to live in debt?
Yes.
I believe that probably is becoming the American way for sure, because of the cost of living being a little bit beyond most people's pay grade. So I think it's the new American way to use credit.
Your people work hard.
Oops.
Your healthcare dollars should work just as hard for them.
But I'm living in debt.
Yeah.
What about your loans?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's
So say, I'm sorry, I got interrupted. But say that one more time.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was just calling for. Trying to keep doing a good job.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thanks for calling, my friend. Said people living beyond their means, definitely. Thanks, my friend. Have a good night. Great call there, as always. Apologize for the interruption. Had a video pop up in the background. And so let me get rid of some of these windows here. I got so many windows open. Yeah, man. So, Black Friday, it was probably heavy credit card usage. And that's the new, and it hurts me to say the American way to use credit. I actually posted a little bit of a segment from last night's chat in reference to the idea that most people, if you look at the manufacturing system in general, the way that every year a new model comes out, a new car every year, and people can't, really afford, to keep up with the, new releases like that. And so people, you have to, in order to afford a new car, you gotta use someone else's money. And so I think somebody mentioned that with all these new cars being released, the used car market is probably where it's at for those that want to be able to actually afford a car. You might come with some maintenance or whatnot, but hey, you ain't got no note. You don't have people's hands in your pocket. So I guess the less hands you have in your pocket in the days ahead, you might be better off. Might not drive as good, but hey, it is what it is. It says Yale to invest $400 million into cryptos. Yep. So Yale, I heard a couple other universities in that area investing as well. So I wonder what they know that we don't know, and I wonder what exactly are they invested in. What's their portfolio of coins, or are they investing in the infrastructure to the system? So we will find out soon one day. It says, I purchased 1,200 in mostly silver and a bit of gold on Black Friday. Yeah, Mac, that's good, man. I saw that there's a lot of deals on metals, but I wasn't making any moves in that area there. I'm focusing on my gram collection. Since most of the stuff bought will be used returning beginning of the year. Will be used return beginning of the end of the year. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt. United States is the biggest debtor nation in the history of the world. Yeah, we're in the. I mean, like, just we're in the trillions. Like, try to just fathom $21 trillion on the books, and then having 100 and something plus trillion of unfunded things like Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, public benefits and retirement. Man, how do you pay back trillions? Our economy doesn't even produce. We don't even have that much growth in our economy to produce that, to pay that back. So you have to default on that. You have to just let that go. And it's unfortunate that, like I mentioned last night, everything boils down to the currency at the end of the day. This is all about your national currency. Hence the idea of rethinking the dollar. If people could come to grips with the idea that the long-term future of their national currency is not anything that will be around 10, 20 years from now in the way that it is now, it will make you rethink a lot of things as far as what you do with with the purchasing power you have today. It says, how much did it really cost NASA on Mars? Good question there. And as always, they say they got it. What I did see, and somebody let me know if there's some video footage showing some other words, but I haven't really seen anything that really makes me believe that what I'm seeing is true. So I'm like, really. And so beyond a room full of people with burgundy shirts, all sitting behind monitors, looking up on a screen, believing that and reporting that there's something heading up towards Mars and it landed and you saw people cheering, I haven't seen any footage. And then what's the real benefit of exploring on Mars? There will benefit humanity here. On top of that, utilizing taxpayer dollars for that. Yeah, there's more to that story than we're told. And, yeah, we don't know enough to really believe. I don't know enough to really believe in to buy into all this. So I'm going to leave it at that. It says, what happened to credit card debt during a financial reset? Philip 56. What happens to credit card debt during a financial reset? That's a good point. That's a good question there. And, we really don't have much of a history to draw upon when it comes to credit card debt directly, because credit cards, from a consumer standpoint, is only 30 years, 40 years old of actually having credit card usage for the public, and 10 years it being a source of income for most people since the Great Recession. So if there was a restructuring of debt, which was basically what the reset will be, it won't be wiped away, I don't think. I think it'll be just redenominated into the new currency or the new system that arrives from the old system failing, because at the end of the day, it's going to either happen because of a bail-in process to the financial institutions, and they're going to issue some type of coin or something through the banks to fund them, or the government will give us some type of second currency or a domestic currency, which is just will be revalued to the old Federal Reserve note. And I think Mexico is a good example of the tequila crisis that happened in the early 90s. From what I've heard, that mortgages or whatnot, when a peso basically was devalued massively, people thought they were getting out, but all the banks did was basically say that if you owed us $80,000 on your 80,000 pesos on your house, now it's 160,000 pesos. Hence the idea of 50% or more devaluation. So there's going to be a restructuring. There won't be any forgiveness of debt, because the banks will not miss out. They will not lose out in this next restructuring aspect. They're going to get something. So the whole economy is a scam. It was designed to fail, but not before all the wealth could be extracted out of it first. Lastly, natural resources confiscated along with property, and then the crash. I don't doubt that, Michael, and I'd imagine that like what's happening with other central banks acquiring actual equities from their stock markets. I think like Japan owns half of government. Japan's central bank owns half of government debt and half of the equities market, I heard, or something like that. So they own the economy there. So the central bank here owns 3-point-something trillion in mortgages, which basically saying they're the biggest real estate owner on this planet. And next, they're going to probably buy the NASDAQ and the Dow and the S&P and a couple other things, anything they can buy of actual companies. So the central bank, Federal Reserve, will own Apple shares, the majority of Apple shares, and Amazon, and they're gonna subsidize all those corporations. So if you own the corporations, you basically own all the mineral rights, because all those companies use elements from the earth. So that's what I believe is in the making. It says, question, I just read Sears secured $350 million loan. Philman, I don't know, but I know that one of the executives of Sears, a billionaire, was looking to purchase one of their tool lines. So one, like, I'm not sure, Black & Decker or some pretty big tool line that Sears carried only. A billionaire executive bought for pennies on the dollar, which sounds like $350 million could have been it, because whatever it was definitely a steal. So I wouldn't doubt that whatever they secured, they had to give up something, hence selling off the rights to some of their electronic line or tool line or something like that. So that could be the case. It says NYSE, Fidelity, and the crew gonna buy up crypto market. Yeah, 2019 will be very interesting, because there will be another rally in the crypto sector, and price will be set by these big financial institutions, and they're going to do it in a way that it's going to be favorable for them when they decide that it's time and they have enough. So we'll see. Craftsman, okay, low blood pressure. I think that could be it, if that's not it. I said I think the government is going to take our precious metals when the stuff hits the fan. Hebrew Israelite Benjamite. That I would say is not possible, but it could happen. I'm not sure how they would know who, what, where, when. But the question is, if they pay any attention to metals in reference to actually putting out news that they're coming and confiscating it, then that's going to make more people awake and aware to the importance of it. So more people, they'll probably have more people running out to go try to get some than they'll actually be able to confiscate from the people who do have it, given the fact that a very low portion of the population actually have metals. So we will see. We will see. But as always, people, you know what time it is. It is that time of the night where it's time to say goodbye. But it's been fun. I've had a great time. Thanks for all the participation this evening. If you are still watching us right now, I'm not sure how many people is online, but give us a thumbs up. It looks like about 60 people or so, with half of that in thumbs up. Why not just click that thumbs up button to show your support for the channel? And as well as, if you guys want to, make sure you follow me on social media. All those plugs right there. I like to share articles or whatnot, things I don't do videos on throughout the day. And more importantly, there's a link below to this book here, Golden Economic Freedom. If you read that from the person who's responsible for this system that we're currently under, with the 0% interest rates and things of that nature, you'll definitely get a good idea as to the importance of metals in your possession. Then also, if you have not, get yourself a gram. It's only maybe like $50 right now delivered to your door, which is the cheapest that you'll find on the internet, and you'll have some money in your possession. So take advantage of that if you have not. Other than that, people, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification. More importantly, I mentioned that I've been receiving more emails and little comments in the chat saying, "Hey, Mike, I didn't know you were streaming tonight. You know, YouTube didn't let me know." So that's to be expected. So I'd imagine if you guys want to join in, you want to be notified, make sure you always check the subscribe button, and make sure that bell's notified in hopes of you guys get notified. So other than that, enjoy your evening. Be safe. Good night. See you tomorrow night. And more importantly, if you're checking out the replay of this, leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts on the conversation topics tonight. Peace. Be good.